time I've said that, so 98 to go. It will be a long day for you guys. So, first of all, I'm not introducing, as I said initially, where we're going to be in a few moments, but I will introduce exactly where we just met. We have the city of Lisbon. The city is known as the city of the seven hills. This is one of the hills, which happens to be different than all the others. This is actually a little different than all the other hills we have. This is kind of an open space for sports and social events. The other one are mainly the most popular and the oldest neighborhoods that we have in Lisbon. This one I've said that is different because this one here doesn't need to be actually maintained, and the reason why we need to maintain the others is because we have a super catastrophe. It's very common to have the earthquakes, and along the centuries you had a lot of earthquakes, so things have changed. So what happens is that those being the neighborhoods, they need actually some preservation and some maintenance, because the tectonic plates move and they can actually get damaged, and it's not actually that safe for the ones who live inside. Even because we had several other cultures living in the same areas, so they had actually their ways to build. And since we had the Romans, they're masters of arches, columns, and even the stones that you would actually under the mountain. So we have also the Moorish, who became actually masters of tunneling, because they have their structures on top of the hills to control the maritime routes. So we need a lot of maintenance. With the earthquakes, some of them collapsed, so we have several structures that got damaged, and those tunnels collapsed. We need to fortify to assure safety. That being said, we met in a place and it don't need much maintenance, because after the earthquakes we usually have the tsunamis. So the water got the last time in 1755 to where we just met. So that's why it's also no need much actually maintenance. The downtown, yes, we need it. We adopted the technique as the same as Venice. So we actually had to build the city on top of the water. So we adopted those wooden columns. Those become unbreakable while submerged in water, exactly the same way they had in Venice. They happen to have 50 million of those. We don't have those many. We like copies. We just did that to copy them. So we'll have a lot of copies during the day for me to actually give you some examples of what I'm saying. So as you can see, I've started with doom and gloom. So from now on we'll become better. Okay, all the earthquakes and all that, forget about that. Just if you want to get like a reason to have an adventure even bigger than what you're having with me, you just have to think that we are 25 years late on an earthquake. We have every 250, so past 274. So always an adventure. Here we go. And we're by the ocean now, so double. There we go. So as I was saying, we have a lot of cultures that I'll introduce you along the day. Sintra is actually one of the places that I can show you the most. Let's say that. So we have the Romans, the Celtics, the Visigoths. We have an influence from what we call the Neo-Indian because of that colony. We have the Neo-Chinese, same colony that we actually brought a lot from. So we call it Neo. So not only the ones that we don't have in the country, but also the ones that were actually out of their centuries. Neo-Renaissance, Neo-Roman, Neo-Indian, we call it always Neo because we used some styles and we adopted to our country as techniques as well. I'm saying that because we have a structure by our left side in a few seconds. That structure was super functional. We actually collapsed twice. We rebuilt it because it was amazing to actually have the problem solved. And that is the Neo-Roman aqueduct. So we actually had the aqueduct right here. We'll have it on our left at some point. It will be in front of us. We actually had this aqueduct because we had so many agriculture and viniculture here. The fields were in a wider area, but the water couldn't reach actually here. So we didn't have enough cisterns or wells to actually irrigate the field. So we needed to bring the water from, it was actually mineral and actually growing naturally. So we brought it from there. So we'll have it now on the right side. We'll pass by it actually. It's a beautiful structure. we don't use it anymore, but that was the only way of bringing the water from the town up there. So we actually closed it. Before we could visit 24/7. Unfortunately, there was a lot of people bungee jumping without the ropes, so the government closed it for safeness. A lot of bureaucracy to deal with. Like this is easier, but it's a beautiful structure in the city. So here we go. We always have this type of traffic, but usually it's in the opposite side. But I think from now on it'll be okay. Thing is, we're going towards Cascais. We're just doing a detour for me to give you one example. But talking a little bit about Cascais, we have one place that it's probably what we call the Portuguese Riviera or the Portuguese Monaco. It's an elitist place. Cascais is like a royal kind of status involving the whole area. It's a huge district. You will see that it's a small center, but it's very popular. Cascais was always settled by the royalties, so the royalty is what we had at celebrities back in the days. So of course always have the support of the noble class families, who actually gave them support for several different issues in several different thematics. The thing is, we have Cascais and Sintra as the royal places in Portugal. Mainly those two. Of course they were spread all over the country, but those two were the main places where they lived and where they had the main palaces. The others happened to be seasonal, like hunting seasons or winters that would be down south would be better, and the palaces were also settled and prepared for that. Cascais, it's kind of interesting because the royalty moved here at some point. This was very strategic. This coast in between Lisbon and Cascais was one of the main coasts, and that's actually the one we had to control the commerce. That's why we actually control the commerce, because of this strategic position of the coast along the whole world. So allowed us to actually have the possibility to send all the spices to be commercialized around the world. The strategic position actually not only the wisdom and the knowledge that was passed by the Templars and then later on of course the Order of Christ. Since the Order of Christ it was controlled by the king, this was in the 16th century with King Manuel I, we actually had a huge power on the fleet. So the king got a little obsessed because he discovered the way to India with, of course, the pioneer of the sailors Vasco da Gama. Discovering the way to India was probably the biggest thing that happened to us. Black pepper made us rich. There was the saffron and all the spices we're bringing from there. What happened, and the problem was that going to India and coming back took 3 years. So that was a big time for us to wait to profit. The king wanted to profit way more, so he actually started to build a lot of caravels and boats and a lot of sailors around the coast, always actually waiting to go to India. That was the apogeos, or the highest in the career of a sailor. That had been said at the time, call it a career. But that was the turning point of Portugal, because the king started to build more, started to send more boats. He got without money to build more boats, so he actually needed the support, economical support from the noble class families. And that's why we have those two places, because the king that time didn't have enough money or gold to actually pay those families who actually invested the money, so he paid them with properties. So that's why we have these two royal places, because they actually build the neighborhoods around here. Those are beautiful houses. You will see that the neighborhoods are the most famous and the most important in here, but just because of that, the houses have still the noble class families. They still have lineages of families, so that's the main thing you will actually see in here, is those big massive houses with amazing neighborhoods. The center is not like a big important thing, it's very smooth but clean. You will see that precisely. We'll be by the coast. This is also known because of the big boats in the marina, but as soon as we get to Cascais, I will actually explain everything detailed for you not to waste time looking for several things or options. I don't want you to waste time on it. I will actually point you out everything. I'm going with you to the center to make your life easier in the center. At some point I will introduce a few things more, but now just leaving you to enjoy, even because we're passing the edge in between Cascais and Sintra. If you actually look to the right side, you have the mountain. Go deeper to the right, that's Sintra. Behind the mountain, we actually in the middle of the vale, or in the middle of the two mountains, there is a vale. That's Sintra exactly. But I will introduce it after, not getting you confused, just mixing the two thematics of the cities itself. So I will leave it to be. Then we'll pass by Estoril. Estoril has a few curiosities, but we'll pass by them. So I will wait that we'll pass for me to actually point out and introduce several other things. So this is already Estoril. So we'll have this thematic from now on, this type of static, this type of introduction all around. Way smoother than Lisbon. We usually here don't have big tall buildings as we have in Lisbon. Here we have this type of neighborhood with land, houses, properties around. This is mostly known because of it. Those are not the most important. We have several on the other side, which is a little bit more remote, of course, to give some privacy, even because the houses are super cheap, so that's one of the reasons. Here we'll pass also by one curious thing, which is the biggest casino that is in Europe, even bigger than Monte Carlo. We'll actually pass around it just for you to have an idea how big it is. The thing is that it's not that beautiful. It's kind of rusty. It's big, but it's not the most beautiful. We can actually see that just right now. Thing is, what happens here in Estoril, it's kind of funny, because Estoril and the locals, they always try to get the same entitlement and status as Cascais has. It's like they're always trying to follow the royal type of atmosphere and be that same entitlement as Cascais received. The problem is that the royalty never actually settled in here, never moved in here. There was no family living in here. It was mainly Cascais. So there is a huge family here, a huge and very well family, who actually started to build several structures to give that imponency and to be actually entitled the same as Cascais. And they made a huge effort. So They actually built not only the casino, they built the Autodrome, so the speed racetrack for the Formula One and MotoGP were actually made by them. We'll pass by an hotel which is super imponent, still related with the James Bond movies and one of the most imponent hotels we had, right next to the casino, so I can actually show you that. But all those were huge monuments and very imponent. Thing is that they never got the same entitlement as Cascais. So that was super unfair, but it was funny because they always looked for the entitlement, and the only thing that they received, since the family is called Pires, it was kind of a name and a nickname that was given by the locals in Cascais. They started to call them one thing. So according with the name Pires, they started to call to the locals in here pirosos, which is a word now in the dictionary, but all this effort and the meaning of the word is that it's the people with bad taste. So that was a huge effort, but it was super unfair for them that received that entitlement after. The casino is the one on our left now. It's not only a casino, it's also very popular for theater plays, concerts. We have a lot of music events in here as well. This one is very, very nice. Also very known for one specific thing. There was a movie filmed in here, but several other places. I will introduce that when we pass by the area. That makes more sense for me to explain. But you know that you have the casino here as a reference for when it was filmed. Then we have the hotel that I was also talking about, the one that was sponsored and actually paid by the same family, which is the one on our left. One of the most mediatic hotels we have actually in the country. So that one here is very imponent and historical, let me tell. The one on the left side, on the other side of the road, it's called Hotel Palacio. So that one is the one that it was also built by the family I just introduced. Now we'll be by the ocean already, so we actually have the ocean in front of us, and from now on we're actually 5 minutes away from Cascais. We're going straight to the center. I'll give you a few more details, but I want you to see it first before I actually explain. So this is considered Cascais already. You have the bay on the left. That's exactly where you're having your free time by that area, which is the center, of course. So we'll have those thematic houses, as I was saying, very small. The one on the left is a good example of the houses here in Cascais. As you can see, all small, humble, very simple here. So we're precisely getting to the center. As I was explaining, there is a few things to do. I will ask you to take advantage now because this is summer vacation and usually this gets packed. And I say packed like sometimes if you actually go to the beach you don't have where to put the towel. And if you have where to put the towel, if you fall asleep, that's a big risk because you might wake up with someone that you don't know sharing a towel with you. It's that crowded. So take advantage now because after lunch is very, very messed up. It's a lot of people now. Sometimes it's nice to wake up with someone next to you, like sometimes they have snacks, which is nice, but more than that, don't. So take advantage now, take your pictures, because if you have friends coming in the same time of the year to visit Cascais, you will see that it's not as empty as now, so take advantage. So here we are. So one thing, we're actually settling the meeting point in here, but I want to go with you to the center to be easy for you to actually know the ways and don't get lost after when you come back to the meeting point. But we settle the meeting point in here, okay? Of course, follow me to the center, but we'll come back here to meet again. If you want to leave something in the bus, feel free. We'll come back within an hour. So no one will be here between us, so actually it's all good, okay? Everyone's ready?